Welcome to A Change of Heart podcast. I'm your host, Angel Walston. And in this space, we navigate life together. We ask the hard questions like, what is the truth you haven't told? But most importantly, we grow together. And sometimes that leads to a change of heart. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of A Change of Heart podcast. For anyone, if this is your first time tuning in, hey, I'm Angel, and as I mentioned in the first episode, this is just a space for us to be able to have some heart-to-hearts, to have conversations that are not therapy adjacent. I have no type of credentials to give any type of therapy advice. But my hope for the conversations that we have specifically throughout this season is that as I am encouraging you all, as I am sharing things, that it will open the door for, as you go to therapy with a real licensed professional, to be able to talk about some things that it brings up. So that is my hope. In addition to that, I am a mindset coach. I am also a content strategist, and I help millennial women of faith how to get clarity in their vision, a strategy that they can implement, and how to overcome limiting mindsets that are keeping them from walking in their God-given purpose. And so with all of that being said, we're going to jump into today's topic, and we're going to start off with a easy, lightweight, or so I think. No, it's a light question of the day. And y'all already know the last time I said we were going to do that, there were tears. Like there was crying. It was a very heavy episode. I don't think that this episode will be as heavy per se, but I am going to share something that is a little bit on the heavier side. So I figured let's start off with a very simple, easy question of the day. So what makes you happy? What is something that makes you happy? And if you are looking at the title of this, then you know why I chose this answer in contrast to what we're going to talk about today. When I think about what makes me happy, so I really love listening to music. Like music is something that just, for the most part, it can put a smile on my face. I have a whole happy playlist that is on my Apple Music. I'll actually put that in the description box. So if y'all want some happy music to listen to, I'll put it on there. I'm gonna go ahead and let y'all know it's not like gospel music. There are some songs on there, but it's happy music. It's nothing like raunchy, risque, or anything like that by any means, but it's not gospel music. So there's that. But I really just enjoy listening to music. It's just like, sometimes just like dancing, singing, it just puts you in this like feel good feeling. So that tends to make me happy. Eating makes me happy, but it's a catch-22 because I've mentioned before, I'm an acne prone girl. And so the things that I like to eat are things that I'm not supposed to eat because it causes me to break out. Seafood is like one of the main things that I absolutely love that I'm not supposed to eat, and it hurts my feelings. But when I'm like in a funk, when I'm in a mood, I want to eat everything that I'm not supposed to. And it's not even like bad food per se. I don't typically go for like a lot of, well, that is a lot. When I'm in a funk, I do want a lot of sweets, sugars, things like that. But yeah, I tend to eat things that I should not eat. But in the moment, I don't care. I want to risk it all. And then as I start breaking out like 2 to 3 months later, it's like, why did we do this to ourselves? So food, listening to music, being at the beach by myself. Oh my gosh. It does something for my heart that just puts me in just such a place of like, just peace and like serenity. I love just being able to like sit on the beach in silence and to just listen to like the ocean. Like even just the thought of that is like lifting my spirits right now. So those are some things that make me happy. As you all know, you can put your answers in the comment section. If you're watching this on my YouTube channel, make sure that you let me know what are some things that make you happy. Or if you are listening to this and you want to answer in my stories on Instagram at Angel C. Walston, then you can put your answer there and I'll be sure to share it throughout today. All right, guys. So let's talk about it. So I want to give you all some insight into why I wanted to talk about this particular topic, and then we're just going to kind of deep dive from there. I don't really have any structure to this episode. It's going to be one of those episodes where I am literally just processing something with you all, and I'm sharing it because I believe that it can help someone. So how all of this came about, I was listening to a podcast by Sky Townsend and Raina Biddy called Unpack and Bounce Back, and I cannot remember right now what the name of the episode was, but I'll link it in the description box. I will go ahead and forewarn you right now. There is language, okay? It is not a Change Your Heart podcast. This is somebody else's podcast. But I came across this episode. It was a good episode, but I do want to let y'all know that it is explicit language. So it's profanity, nothing vulgar, but it is profanity. So just be mindful of that. And one of the things that they were talking about, they were pretty much just asking each other's questions, I believe, about adulting. And one of the things that was asked was something along the lines of, what do you feel like no one told you or no one talked to you about becoming an adult, being an adult? And something that Sky said that I was like, oh my gosh, girl, was nobody talks about these random bouts of sadness. And I was like, sis, oh my gosh. Yes, you're absolutely right. And not only do we need to talk about it more, but we need to talk about this on the podcast, because I felt like it needed its own episode, because I can definitely say that I am someone who experiences this quite frequently, honestly. And I do feel like it's one of those things that everybody experiences, specifically women at some point. But it almost feels like we're all going through it, but nobody actually talks about it until someone is finally like, hey, I really don't feel like myself. I feel like I'm sad all the time and I cannot pinpoint specifically what's wrong. And the person you're talking to is like, girl, me too. And it's like, I'm sorry, wait, what? Why are we not talking to each other about these things? And so I felt like this would be a good episode, because I realized that this is something that we all experience, or we all have experienced, and we don't actually have language for it, because sometimes there's nothing wrong. We don't know why we feel this way. Sometimes it's a hormonal thing. It's impacted by our periods. Sorry guys if you're listening, but we all grown here. And so we can just get into this space where it feels like we are drowning in a sense, and it feels very lonely, and it feels like you can't talk to anybody, because if someone were to ask you, well, what's wrong? It's like, I don't know. I've got nothing, sis. So with that being said, let's deep dive, guys. So I'm going to preface this episode with this. I'm going to share something, and I want you to keep in mind that the episodes this season are pre-recorded, and this particular episode, I'm not going to say when exactly it was recorded, but I'm intentionally going to wait to post this episode until I am at a place where I am no longer at where I am as of today, that I'm going to be talking about this, because I don't want y'all to be concerned about me. So with that being said, I do want to talk about this, and I do want to share it, because I feel like a lot of times we go through things and it just feels very lonely, and we feel like we're alone. We feel like we're by ourselves trying to figure things out. And I believe that this can be very helpful for someone. And so I wanted to talk about it while I'm in it, versus talking about it and maybe forgetting some things. I don't know. But I wanted to talk about it while I'm in it, to be true to what I'm experiencing right now, how things have been. So maybe like 3 weeks ago at this point, I felt like I was just getting into a funk. And whenever someone says they're in a funk, y'all know it's just like feeling unmotivated, feeling just down, not having a reason per se, just feeling just really in a space of like not feeling like myself, just feeling very, I don't know, just, I don't even really know how to explain it, but you know how you just have that feeling like something's off, like I don't like the way that I'm feeling, I'm crying all the time, like I'm just in a space where I don't feel like myself, and I don't like it. And I'm the type of person that I say I'm the type of person, I would say 99.9% of women experience this when it is either time for your period or while you're on your period. Emotions are high. I think that is an understatement. I know for myself, whenever I am in a mood or I feel like my energy is off or I'm feeling like I'm tired, irritable, all of those things, I tend to think, is it time for my period? I have a period tracker on my phone, like a period tracker app. And so I'll go and look at my app. If I am like 7 days away from my period, it's like, okay, this is a hormonal response. We just have to wait for the Red Sea to part. Everything's going to be fine from here. And that's kind of how I measure, like, am I really sad or is it just time for my period and I'm hormonal? And so what I've noticed is that most of the time it is like, oh, it's 7 days out for my period. This is more than y'all asked for, but we're here and this is a safe space. So we might as well go ahead and talk about it. I'm not the girl who is like moody, have like emotional, all of that when I'm on my period. It's the week before that's a doozy. So once my period starts, like everything for the most part returns back to normal. So I feel like I have 3 moods when it's that time of the month. So I'm either super fatigued. So when I say fatigued, it's like it is hard for me to like stay awake. I am super unmotivated. I don't feel like doing anything. It is really hard to focus. Like I feel tired and almost like lethargic all the time. The other side of that is sis is irritated. Like when I tell you any and everything irritates me, it's like I am 2.5 seconds away from ending up on an episode of Snapped. Like it's bad, y'all. And no one would know this because I do feel like I do a very good job for the most part of keeping that composed. But in my head, these thoughts, baby, ciao, okay? The purge list I have made when it is time for my period. And then the third mood that I have when it's time for my period is that I am really depressed and I'm crying all the time. It's a very like emotional, like everything is just sad and it just sucks. And so for the most part, my preference is I would rather have a combination of the 3, right? So I'd rather be depressed, fatigued, and irritable all at the same time. And I know he's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Because when that happens, it's like you get smaller doses of it. So it's like, I'd rather be like 33% tired, 33% irritated, 33% depressed versus just having one of them and being like 99% irritated, 99% depressed, 99% fatigued. And so it's very rare though that I get all 3 at once. I tend to get one and it's just like real intense. And so I say all of that to say, when I find myself in these types of moods, I typically can think like, okay, are we just having like that time of the month, ma'am, and we need to just like let it ride its course? Or am I really feeling like this? So whenever I go to check my period app and it's like 14 days out, it's like, we're actually sad. All right, let's deal with this. And it's typically I can like figure out like, okay, this is going on. This is happening. This is why I feel this way. Get over that. And then the 7 days before my period, I'm back to being crazy. I shouldn't say crazy, but hormonal. So going back to what we initially started talking about 3 weeks ago, I found myself just like being in a mood, just having like that very just like sad, down, all of that kind of mood. And I checked my period app and it was like, we're like 15 days out for our period. That's odd. So nothing in particular was really bothering me per se. It was like, I don't really know why I'm feeling this way, but we're just going to be aware of it. And it was one of those things where it was like, okay, I know that I don't really feel like myself. I know like something's going on here, but we're going to keep pressing forward. That's what we do. And then as it got closer to time for my period to start, it was like heightened. So it's like we were already kind of in the space of when it's time for my period. And then that took it up a notch. And so it was just very like crying like every day, crying like out of the blue, literally just wanting to just like isolate, not wanting to be around anybody, just really wanting to be in a space of like, I just want to be in my bed. And I don't ever want to come out of here. Like I literally just want to like be alone and be by myself. And I realized that I'll go ahead and share it. I was like, I don't know if I want to share this. We'll go ahead and share it. So the point where I realized like, okay, something is up and I really don't like this. So I am someone who is high functioning in the sense of I can have a lot going on within, but I'm still able to do things externally, even though I have things going on internally. So the problem with this is I tend to let things go unchecked for a long time before I actually be like, oh, we need to deal with this, because I've just been doing and going that it's like, oh, I'm still able to produce. I'm still able to do things. I'm still able to get things done. So we're good. And I realized this was actually maybe 3 weeks ago, that 2 or 3 weeks ago, now I think about it, I think it's 2 weeks ago, I had to lead worship at church. And I remember just like that whole weekend, it was like the starting of everything kind of elevating from just feeling like we're in a funk to like, okay, everything is like very elevated. We'll say that much. So I had to lead worship at church, and I just remember feeling like, I don't want to do this. And it had nothing to do with church. It had nothing to do with like anything in particular, except for it was like, I was just sad. Like, I don't know how else to say it other than like, I was just sad. And I was just in this space of like, I literally just want to stay in bed and I just want to sit here and cry. Nothing in particular is wrong, but I just want to sit here and cry. And like, I just want to, I don't want to go. I don't want to sing. I don't want to go and act like I'm happy and smile and lift my hands and do all of that, because I don't feel like that right now. Like, I literally just want to stay at home and cry. Of course I went, because y'all know how I am. If I commit to something, I'm gonna do it. So I just remember, so how it's set up, it's like we have like this little area right here. This is like, I hate to say our stage, but it's a stage. You have this stage. And so it's like, I remember just standing here and feeling like I wanted to cry. And it's like, nope, we can't do that right now. Suck it up. You're gonna go out there, you're gonna smile, and you're gonna look like you're happy. And I remember just taking like a deep breath and then walking out, good morning, Liberation. And it's like, what are we doing? Like, is this really what we're doing right now? And it was just this feeling of like, I have to get through this set and I have to smile. I have to look like I'm happy. I have to, do what I've always done, because don't nobody want to see me up here crying. Like, don't nobody want to see that. And that for me was the moment. It was two things actually. So that was the first thing for me, that it was like, okay, one, this is a little bit more than what I anticipated. And this is beyond like a hormonal, like period type of thing. But I don't ever want to feel like I'm having to pretend when it comes to worship. I don't ever want to be in a position, especially leading worship specifically, where it's like I'm having to put on just to get through a set. Like, that's not what I want for myself. And I said in season 1 that I'm very good at pretending. And I still stand by that. And I said then, I'll say it now, I'm not saying that it's a good thing, but I know how to get through. I know how to press through. But when it comes to that, like, that's not something that I want to pretend in or to get through in a sense. And I just remember I called my best friend after church, and she was like, oh yes, like, I saw that you sang today. You looked at it. I was like, I'm not happy. Like, I'm really struggling right now. And I'm in this space where I feel like in so many areas of my life, I'm having to pretend like I'm happy right now, and I'm not. And I'm finally like at the point now where I am sitting with the fact that I'm not happy. And it wasn't even on some like, I'm not happy because like life, or because I don't have this, or because I don't have that. It literally is like this random bout of sadness that has come out of nowhere, that is just kind of like sitting here. And it's like, I even felt guilty in a sense, because it's like I'm sitting here portraying something that I know that I'm not right now. And also just feeling like there's so many different areas of my life, with work, with everything, honestly, where it just feels like I have to show up. I have to smile. I have to be happy. I have to pretend. And being in a space where I didn't feel like myself, I'll be 100% honest, where I don't fully feel like myself, where I feel like I'm constantly trying not to cry. I'm constantly in a space of just feeling sad. I'm constantly in a place where it's like I don't have an answer for why I feel this way. And just like being in that space, yet still trying to show up as though it's not that, like it feels overwhelming now. And so that was the initial thing that was like starting the breaking point. And then the next thing that like took the cake was I was on Facebook, and this girl had posted something along the lines of, this is gonna be a bad paraphrase, but y'all will get the gist of it. She posted something along the lines of, she's like the type of person who whenever someone says like, how are you doing? Her answer is always like, you know, oh, I'm good, I'm fine, whatever, similar to me. And someone asked her, was like, no, like for real, like, how are you doing? And she said she just broke and like just started crying and like vented, was like laid everything on this person of like what was going on with her. And I remember reading that and feeling like, I wish somebody would just see that I'm not good right now. Like, I wish that someone could see that I am in a space where like it wasn't even a matter of just struggling, but like I'm in a space where it's like I am dealing with like this heaviness of this sadness that will not lift for whatever reason. And no one knows, nobody notices, no one sees that. And so that for me was the point where it was like, okay, something has to give, something has to change. So by this point, just to bring y'all up to speed, I'm at the point now where my period starts. And so any other time that I kind of like, it's a hormonal type of thing, it's like, okay, period started, whew, we're in the clear, like everything's going to go back to normal. Problem with that was it didn't. So this is like way TMI, but we're here now, so we might as well just stay here. I'm now at the point where I'm on the week of my period and we're still here, guys. So it's like I'm still in this space of where it's like, it's just like this weight that is not lifting for some reason. And I will say it's not as consistent as, it was not like an everyday thing that it was like the last 2 weeks. But like today is a better day, which is why I'm recording this now, because like I have the energy to, I'm feeling up to it. But yeah, it's just like being in this space of just feeling like, when is this going to end? Like, when is this going to lift? Because I thought it was just going to be a hormonal thing. And I was like, in my mind, I was all fully prepared for it to be like, oh, we'll move past this in a couple days. And that is not the case. And so I share all of that to say, the reason why I wanted to share that is because I feel like, one, when it comes to conversations like this, a lot of times we don't talk about it and people feel like they're dealing with it alone when they're not. And the other thing too was, the crazy thing is, literally everyone that I know has had something that has like been transpiring during this time. So one of my best friends, it was her birthday this week. Another one of my friends gave birth this week. Literally, I can tell you 5 people off the top of my head currently who have lost someone within the last 2 weeks, within the last 2 to 3 week time. Like death has just been something that has been very prevalent for whatever reason. Like it's just been a very weird space of me, like knowing people, not experiencing that in my own personal life, but knowing people personally who are just grieving and going through that. It's just been like, it literally just felt like everyone around me has had something of like significance that was happening, that required me to some extent to like show up and be present for them. And it's like, y'all don't know the half. Like I'm literally struggling right now to just show up like in any capacity, because like the weight of this has been very exhausting, to be honest. And I'm not even gonna lie, I was driving home yesterday. I went to visit one of my friends and I just started crying in the car. And I literally felt myself thinking, no, I actually said out loud, God, I don't have time to be depressed. Like, I have too much to do. Like, I don't have time to be sad. I don't have time to like deal with this. And I'm not even gonna necessarily go the route of like giving myself a diagnosis or anything like that. But it's like I don't have time to be sad. Like I have all of this stuff I need to be doing right now. I have what I feel like I have people depending on me, and I know that there is a part of it that's like, this is such an honorable response, Angel. It's like you have your own stuff that you're dealing with, and look at you, you're looking out and thinking about other people. And I feel like we have created that to be an honorable response when it's very detrimental, actually, because what we end up doing is tucking away our stuff and hiding behind showing up and doing and being and all of this for everyone else, that by the time we get to the point where we check in with ourselves, it's not too late, but it's like, whoo, child, this could have been prevented. Like, we didn't have to spiral so far into this space. Like, we definitely could have prevented this. And so, yeah, guys, it's a really interesting space to be in, because on one hand, like, I'm very, very, very aware. I cannot stress enough how aware I am that it's like, on one hand, you have this feeling of wanting someone to see you and to just pick up on the fact like, hey, I see that you're smiling, but I feel like you're not good. But then on the other hand, you don't want to talk about it. Like, you really don't want to talk about it. You don't want to talk to anyone. And I will say that I have been talking to people about it. I have shared with my life coach. I have shared with two of my close friends, like, hey, this is where I'm at. This is what's been going on. I don't know why I feel this way. I don't know why I'm in this space, but this is what is going on with me. So I have not been dealing with this by myself, which I am proud of, because y'all know I will process things alone. Your girl's growing up. but yeah, it really is just, it's like this catch 22 in a sense. And something that my life coach said to me that was, it was helpful and also put things into perspective when I was saying that, you know, like, there's a part of me that really just wanted someone to notice, wanted someone without me saying it to be like, hey, I don't think Angel's actually like really good right now. And she may need support. And something that my life coach said was that, in a sense, like, don't take it personal, but yes, people should like pick up on some things. Yes, people should be aware of some things, but sometimes people are not going to ask if you're good because they need you to be good. So they don't want to know that you're not good because they need your support right now. They need your encouragement right now. They need you to be to them what you have always been. And so they know if they ask if you're good and you're not, then now they have to deal with your stuff. And she didn't say it in those words. That's how I interpret it. Let me rephrase that. That wasn't specifically what she was saying, but what she said was, it's like, they need you to be good. And I interpreted the rest of that in the sense of, I do realize that, you know, there have been things that have happened, and this is like no shade at nobody, none whatsoever. I'm saying this in a general sense, in a life sense, not even just these last 3 weeks, like literally within my life, that I do realize that there are some people that it's like, y'all need me to be good. So it's like, you're not necessarily going to check in, or you're not necessarily going to make sure, or even ask. And I realize that I do have a responsibility as well to not wait or assume that people should know what I'm dealing with, that I have a responsibility to relay that. And so that was another reason as well why I did share it with people who were close to me, people who I trust with that information, and who I knew that I could be just honest and not have to pretend with, that I didn't have to make it pretty or anything like that, and that I could share things that I will not say here on a public platform, but that I could share things and they not overreact by what I said, and that they did not feel, they could understand it without it being like this overly concern, if that makes sense. And so, yeah, it's so funny because one of my favorite movies is Beyond the Lights, with Gugu and Batara. And one of my favorite lines from that movie is something that I feel like, this is going to sound so dramatic, y'all. I'm super aware of it. But the first time I heard it, I was like, oh my gosh, I absolutely get it. So if you've never seen the movie, just to kind of set the scene for you. Noni, she is like this big singer, and she has this performance at, I'm pretty sure it's the BET Awards, that does not go as planned with like her ex-boyfriend, who's kind of not her boyfriend situation. Anyways, a fight breaks out. She's afraid she's going to lose her record deal. Like, she's all in the tabloids, all of this stuff. She had a suicide attempt as well. And she goes back home, and she's like hitting her, like, I guess just like her award, like her awards are framed, like, you know, you get platinum awards, all that stuff. Anyways, she's hitting it with her hand and just like having like this whole breakdown. Her boyfriend comes up to her and was like, Noni, like, what's going on? And she said, I feel like I'm suffocating in the middle of the street and no one can see me dying. And I will say, I don't feel as like to that extent. But the first time I heard that, I was like, oh my God, yes. It's like feeling like you are in this space of everyone around you. It feels like nobody knows or nobody sees or nobody even relates to what it is that you're feeling, and it just feels like you're drowning. And it literally feels like you're drowning, and people are just walking by you like, oh, hey girl, hey, and like completely oblivious to it. And so I share all of this to say that I'm sharing this because I want someone who is in the same space that I am in to know, one, that you're not alone, that you're not the only person that experiences this. You're not the only person that feels this way. I know that a lot of people look up to me. I know that a lot of people look to me for encouragement, advice, all of those things. And I've always said, I will continue to say, I never want to paint this picture of perfection by any means. I know that I give you all a lot of encouragement. I give you all a lot of advice, but I'm in it with you. Like, I never want to give off the impression of I'm helping y'all to get to a place that I've already mastered, or I'm helping you all. Like, I don't need this. I'm helping. No. Like, I'm in it with you, and I'm helping you as I'm learning, as I'm growing. And so I wanted to share all of that, which was very long, but I wanted to share all of that to give some context to what I'm going to talk about as far as ways to help when you're having these random bouts of sadness, to let you know that I'm not just saying this because like, oh, this feels good. I'm literally having to practice this myself right now. I'm literally having to walk through this myself right now. And hopefully this may be something that will encourage you and help you as well. So with all of that being said, one of the things that have been very helpful for me during this time is talking to people. So as I said, I have a life coach. I have two of my very close friends that I have shared with, and it has helped me for a number of reasons. One, my life coach, she is also a licensed therapist. So she does have the ability to give, you know, more like professional, I guess you would say, advice in it. And what I'm grateful for in my friendships is that they are able to help me to be able to speak things without asking a lot of questions, which is something that can like shut me down very easily. And so I'm grateful that in me communicating like, hey, not in a good space right now. This is what's been going on. Don't really even have an answer for it. Don't really know what's wrong, but here we are. And them just saying like, and that's okay. Like, however I can support you, let me know. But just allowing the space even to be able to say that. So I definitely would encourage you to have someone that you can talk to. If you don't have friends who you feel comfortable or family that you feel comfortable talking to, y'all know I am team therapy all day, every day. Okay. I will always push therapy. I'm an advocate for therapy. And I truly do believe that that is something that is important. And I know some people are concerned about like being diagnosed with something. I recognize like where I am right now. Like I said, my life coach is not diagnosing me with depression. I'm not saying that I'm going through depression right now. I'm just saying I'm definitely got a depressed mood. And I've definitely been in this space for too long. We'll say that much. But don't focus on, I don't want to be diagnosed with something, because just taking the time to talk to someone, it's not about them trying to label you. It's not about them trying to make you be something or put you in a box or a category. Just being able to talk can help you to process things. And so I do strongly encourage you to seek professional help, because I do think that it's important to have friends, family, all of that you can talk to, but it's something different about having someone like, this is what you have training in. This is what you have a licensure in. This is what is your expertise. This is your specialty. They know how to ask certain questions. They know what to do to get you to think about certain things. And so I would encourage, going the route of therapy. Or if you have a life coach, choose a licensed therapist. That's also a great place to start. As a believer, obviously, I am someone who also is going to push prayer. Listening to worship music. I've literally listened to Jireh probably every day this year and last year. Whenever that song came out, I'm very confident I've listened to that song every single day. And it's just something about like worship music and just being able to cry it out to worship music sometimes. It really does just give you like this peace. And I am someone who, my faith is something that's extremely important to me. And I am never going to be someone who pushes the spiritual aspect of something and not also talk about the practical aspect of things. And so as I'm pushing therapy, I encourage you to pray. I encourage you to seek wise counsel in that as well. You can also talk to your community if you have that. But I definitely would encourage you to get into prayer, get on the YouVersion app, look up different studies, whether it's on just like sadness, loneliness, whatever it might be. You can start one of the YouVersion plans. Get into your scripture, look up scriptures and things like that. But yeah, I strongly would encourage that. And then it does help to talk to other believers that can pray for you. And it's not a matter of them judging you. It's not a matter of them trying to belittle your situation and saying like, oh, you just need to pray about it. But having people who will actually walk through this with you and who will encourage you through prayer and who will check in with you and all of that. So definitely would encourage that. And then I want to share some of the things that my life coach said that did help to put some things into perspective as well that I'm trying to be mindful of. So one of the questions that she asked me was, when is the last time you intentionally cultivated joy? I was like, she said, the fact that you have to think that long, that means it's been too long. Touche, sis, touche. Enough said. And I realized the last time that I did something for myself that like really brought me joy and I was intentional about like I'm doing something that's for me, that is just for me, was I did like a beach day for myself. Just me, did all the things that I wanted to do, sat at the beach like all day, visited one of my best friends, and that was in June. And she was like, ma'am, it's about to be August. And I was like, you're right. And just taking the time to do something that intentionally brings you joy, that intentionally makes you happy, that in itself can be something that lifts your spirit, that in itself can be something that really does just put you in a space that just kind of like lifts your mood. So when the next time that you find yourself just kind of having like this random bout of sadness, you don't know where it's coming from, you don't know what the cause of it is, take a moment to think about, okay, what can I do to intentionally cultivate joy right now? What can I do to intentionally bring happiness into my life? Let's do that. Let's not wait until 2 weeks from now, but like, let's start implementing that now. So for me, like, this is why I asked you all the question, what's something that makes you happy? So maybe it's listening to your happy playlist. Maybe it's going to the beach. Maybe it's eating your favorite dessert, whatever it might be, but finding something that cultivates joy. So if you're in a space where you're having just this random bout of sadness, and it doesn't have to be a random bout of sadness, you could have a very valid reason as to why you were sad. I want to encourage you to find intentional ways to cultivate joy, because that is something that it was like, this is why I pay you, ma'am. This is why I pay you. Another thing that she suggested was taking a moment to check in with yourself. And so I'll be the first person to say that I am very quick when I find myself getting ready to cry unexpectedly. I'm very quick to say, Angel, we don't even have a reason to cry. And it's like, but something is coming up. Like there's a reason why I'm feeling whatever it is that I'm feeling. And so instead of being dismissive of it, let's take the time to like really just put your hand on your chest and say, all right, what is this? Like what's happening right now? Like what is this response? And sometimes you don't have language for it. Sometimes you honestly just don't know, and that's okay. But allow it to come up. Allow your tears to come out. Allow yourself to break, and do that without judgment, because I know for myself, when I feel like I'm crying and I don't have a reason to cry, it almost feels like, well, these are a waste of tears, or it feels like I shouldn't be crying. But it's like your body is responding. Your emotions are responding in a way for a reason. So let's unpack this here. Let's actually take the time to figure out like what is it that I'm experiencing? Is it fear? Is it doubt? Is it guilt? Is it shame? Is it the unknown? Am I worried? Am I concerned? Am I anxious? Like what's going on? And so that is helpful for me, because I know for myself, another thing that I wouldn't say that I struggle with, I feel like I function with it, but it is something that I'm aware of, is that I do have anxiety. And I know for myself, the feelings of being overwhelmed, the feeling of being anxious, that triggers a depressed mood for me, because when I feel overwhelmed, when I feel anxious, it makes me feel like everything is falling apart. And so I have to be mindful of that, because it's like, am I really sad or am I just overwhelmed? Because if we can figure that out, then we can like chip away at, all right, what's causing me to be overwhelmed? What can I do to change it? What can I do to either fix my schedule, whatever I need to be, so that I don't feel that way? Does that then adjust and improve my mood? So it's just being mindful of those things, being aware of those things, and really just like checking in with yourself. Another thing that she told me was to be mindful of my words. So I was telling her that it's a specific situation that I did not want to talk to someone about. And she was like, why? And I said, well, because I feel like if I say that, nothing is wrong, then they're not going to believe me, and they're going to keep asking like, but no, something's wrong. Like you seem like you're off, like what's wrong? And it's like, nothing's wrong. And she was like, well, why do you say nothing is wrong? It's like, because I don't know what's wrong. She's like, I understand, but for you to say that nothing is wrong when you're feeling all of this, even though you don't know what you're feeling, that is a betrayal to yourself. And I was like, first of all, ma'am, this is not what I'm paying you for. Like, you're not just going to come for my entire life like that. But what she was trying to get me to understand is that by saying nothing is wrong, it's implying that what I'm experiencing, what I'm feeling, how I'm feeling, that's nothing. And that is not true. And so I'm having to be more mindful if someone were to say, hey, is something wrong? Instead of saying nothing is wrong, it's okay to say, I don't really know. Like, I don't necessarily feel like myself. Something feels a little bit off, but I can't exactly pinpoint what it is. Like that's okay to say as well. And I've just decided that people are going to ask too many questions if I say that, or they're not going to believe me. So I just say nothing is wrong, when that's not the truth, even though it wasn't my intent to be dishonest or to betray myself by not saying that. So it's just a reminder to be mindful of even the language that you attach to it, so that you're not dismissive of what it is that you're experiencing, because how you're feeling is valid even when you don't have the words to explain it. And sometimes we feel like, I shouldn't feel like this because I don't know what the reason is. And another thing that I want to add to that is, sometimes when you just start talking about it, you don't even realize, like, things will just start coming up. And as it starts coming up, you'll realize like, okay, all right, we're getting somewhere. Still may not have it figured out, but we're getting somewhere. And so I'll give you all honest example. Yesterday when I was having this whole cry fest on my way home, and I'm just like, God, I don't have time to be depressed right now. Like, I don't have time to be sad. I have too much to do. I started thinking about like, okay, Angel, like what is really going on here? And as I was just like in my car, just talking to God, crying to God, I was like, God, I feel like I'm failing. Like, I literally feel like I'm drowning in all of these different areas, even though like I haven't even actually it's not even so much I haven't even started, but like I haven't even put myself in a position to fail or succeed at this point. But it just feels like all of this stuff that I have with me, I feel like I'm carrying the weight of so much stuff. I feel like I am trying to do something that I don't know what the outcome of it is going to be. And I feel like I've invested all of this money into something that I don't know what the outcome is going to be, and everything's just going to fail. And as I was just thinking it through and talking it through and processing through it, it was like, Angel, a lot of this stuff that you are feeling, that you are thinking, it's all the things that could happen, but that also could not happen. So it's like I am more so focused on this space of worrying about things that very well may not ever be an issue, but I'm just already in my head about how it's not going to work, how it's going to fail, how it's going to be this, how it's going to be that. And that in itself is an anxiety inducing response, which triggers a depressed mood for me. And so I'll be honest enough to say, like, that's not the end of it, but even just getting that up, I felt a weight lifted there as well. And even just having that conversation out loud with myself and God in my car on the highway, it helped me to be able to see how irrational these thoughts are as well. It's like, you're really worried about something that really may not be something to be worried about. So let's not focus on that until we get there. And if it's an issue then we'll tackle it then. But let's not already set ourselves up in a position where we are focusing on something that very well may not be an issue. And so just talking it out at times can be very helpful. Last thing that I want to say was something that, we have small groups at church, and something that one of the ladies mentioned was that she realizes, like, as most of us, that time of the month, real emotional, real irrational at times, we get to a space where we have like a lot going on, right? And as a result of that, what she has decided is she does not make any major decisions or any decisions the week she's on her period, because she knows how she is impacted emotionally, mentally, all of those things. So she does not make decisions that week. And so something that I have implemented for myself is that I have a schedule for creating content. And I give myself a break week the week before my period, because I know that's when I'm unmotivated. I know that's when my mood is, I know that's when I'm not necessarily in a good space. And so sometimes when you're going through these just hormonal bouts of sadness, the ones that you can predict, the ones that you know, all right, once a month we gonna be like this. Sometimes it's just good to kind of mark that time out in whatever way that you can. Listen, we can't take off a week from work every month. I mean, some of us could, but for the most part, you can't take a week off from work every month because it's time for your period. Like, let's be fair, we can't do that, but you can be mindful of how it impacts you in different ways. And so I do want to encourage you all, the things that you do have control over, be mindful of it. Make the adjustments. There's nothing wrong with that. And also know that you are not alone, because there's so many women that I have had this conversation with recently that it's like, yeah, girl, me too. And it's like, we have to be more open about it. We have to be willing to talk about it, because there's a lot of us who have been dealing with it alone, and we feel like we are literally the only ones that are over here on the struggle bus. And it's like, no, ma'am, you are not. We all are. We just don't really talk about it to each other, or we don't talk about it in public platforms as this. And so I wanted to share that to encourage other people to know, listen, you are not alone in this. We all have our times. We all have our moments. And I want to encourage you to know that if you are listening to this, which you will be listening to this, I know that you will be, that means that I am on the other side of it. And I hope that that encourages you to know that you can also get on the other side of it, that you don't have to stay here. And let me also say this. I don't know when this is going to go up, but it very well could be months have passed by the time you all even listen to this. And I just want to encourage you to know that we're all on a journey. We are all in a space where we are figuring things out, where we are going through things. We all have hard days. We all have hard times. We all have things that we are battling in different ways. And sometimes it can last longer than others. Sometimes it can just feel like you're never going to come out of it, but you will. You absolutely will. And God has a way of working in ways that you look back and it's like, I don't know how I made it out of that. I don't know how, I don't know how, but I was able to get through it. I was able to come out on the other side of it. And I want other women to know that that can be for you too. Is not, you're not alone. And I know it sucks sometimes. I know it can feel very overwhelming. I know it can feel very just very lonely and frustrating. But I want you to know I see you. And I know what it feels like to be in a position where you feel like you're trying so hard to be happy. You're trying so hard to just keep pressing forward and to push through. And it just feels like it's impossible. And you just want somebody to say, hey, are you good for real? And nobody says it. I know what that feels like. But this is me saying, I see you. I'm with you. And you are not alone in this, and you are also going to get on the other side of this. So I hope that this has been encouraging. Please make sure that you share this with someone. And guys, I have not said this in a while. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast if you don't already. Follow the podcast, and please leave reviews. It really does help me when you leave reviews to make the podcast more discoverable for more people. So if you have not left a review, what you waiting on? Go ahead and leave a review. And also, please, please, please make sure that you share it, because I believe that this will help to encourage someone else. So hope you all have an amazing week. And until next time, don't forget, be whole, be healed, and be authentic. Bye. Thank you so much for tuning into A Change of Heart podcast. I hope you were encouraged, and please take a moment to share with a girlfriend, and don't forget to download the episode. Lastly, I would love to connect with you. You can follow me on Instagram at Angel C. Walston and at A Change of Heart podcast. Have an amazing week, and don't forget, be whole, be healed, and be authentic.